As I've said many times on this channel before, the luxury lifestyles you see online are often hiding the truth that many of these gurus and hustle bros are actually committing crimes to get this wealth, and in many cases are massively in debt and just trying to present themselves as successful for internet clout. A prime example of that is today's subject, Anthony Ferreira, or more commonly known as the Timepiece Gentleman. Anthony rose to fame during the pandemic when he began flaunting his wealth across his TikTok and Instagram accounts. He would show off his luxury cars and motorcycles, as well as his extensive luxury watch collection. He began to brand himself as the Timepiece Gentleman on social media and claimed his wealth and lifestyle came from flipping luxury watches. But the truth was that he was nothing more than a con man whose lies finally caught up to him, and he was recently sentenced to 70 months in federal prison after pleading guilty to wire fraud and mail fraud. In order to get the full picture of how Anthony's empire of fraud collapsed, we have to go back to the beginning of the story. Anthony grew up in the foster care system and experienced a troubled upbringing, which constantly led to him having trouble with the law. He had multiple DUI arrests and spent a short time in prison for his DUIs, but it wasn't until his brother passed away in a car accident that he started to get his life together. He had a passion for men's watches and started trying to flip cheaper brands like Fossil watches before eventually getting into pricier watches like Rolex and Cartier. When the pandemic hit, Anthony's social media accounts promoting his luxury watch business took off, and this is when he really started to flaunt the wealth and lifestyle this business had allegedly brought him. For those in the business, though, they felt something was off about Anthony because luxury watch flipping, while profitable, can't really afford the type of lifestyle Anthony was showing off because most of the watches Anthony was flipping belonged to other people, and his commission on these sales should be about 5%, which is standard in the industry. If Anthony is selling a $200K watch, he should be making about $10K per sale, which is a very nice commission, but he would be needing to do massive amounts of sales to be able to fund the luxury lifestyle he was constantly showing off online. Something just wasn't adding up, and suspicion about Anthony continued to grow. However, despite Anthony receiving a lot of negativity, he continued to get more watches from wealthy clients to sell on his social media accounts, and his fame and wealth continued to grow. That all changed in 2022 when the luxury watch market collapsed. Its years of growth from the pandemic stimulus checks and crypto bros pumping money into these industries eventually reversed, and within a few short months the market tanked about 20%. Anthony, who was being dishonest with both his clients and followers about how he was actually making money, eventually got exposed as a fraud and tried to cover up his crimes by claiming he got robbed and even attempted to take a luxury watch from a jewelry store, claiming it was one of his stolen watches. This eventually led to the police being called, and the video made it onto several crime YouTube channels as well. We'll cover Anthony's crimes after a word from today's sponsor. About a year ago, I bought some cheap earbuds off a well-known website to replace my old ones, and within about 6 months they were already falling apart and had subpar sound quality. But seeing as I already paid for them and the return window was closed, I just kept using them. That wasn't until Raycon reached out to me and said they wanted to send their everyday earbuds to me to try out. I said yes, and they quickly sent over not just the earbuds, but a very cool protective case with a cement design as well. Before I was going to recommend the earbuds, I wanted to try them out, and over the past few days I took them to the gym a few times and even went on a hike with them as well. The entire time they performed perfectly, and I couldn't be happier having this earbud upgrade from Raycon. A few things I really liked about these earbuds is that they have a quick charge feature that only needs 10 minutes of charging to provide 90 minutes of battery time, which is super convenient when you need to do a quick charge before heading out. On top of that, the earbuds have a 32-hour battery life when fully charged and have multi-point connectivity that lets you pair 2 devices at once to your earbuds. The everyday earbuds are also weather resistant at a IP66 rating, so no worries about getting these things sweaty while at the gym. The earbuds also have a tap feature, which is really convenient to change the volume without having to reach for your phone. I'm happy Raycon sent me these and plan on using them for a long time to come. If you would like to buy a pair, head on over to buyraycon.com/Scott Schaefer to get 20% off the everyday earbuds. Thanks again to Raycon for sponsoring this video. Anthony sold his clients watches both online and in his store, the Timepiece Gentleman, and would take the normal 5% commission sale, or at least that's what he told everyone. The truth is that Anthony would often sell his clients' watches, pocket the entire purchase price, and tell his client that the watch was still on sale, and no one had bought it yet. Anthony would also receive wires of large amount from clients wanting him to purchase watches for them, but would then give them the runaround, telling them he was having trouble acquiring the watch they wanted. In reality, Anthony was using the funds from these watch sales to fund his luxury lifestyle and his own personal watch collection as well. As the market price for many of these watches went up every month during the pandemic, this Ponzi scheme worked, but once the market started going down, he could no longer keep his Ponzi scheme running, and Anthony's clients demanded their watches returned to them, which in many cases he no longer had, because he had sold the watch without telling them and used the money. As the walls started to collapse around him, Anthony got desperate and decided to fake a robbery as an excuse as to why he didn't have some of his clients' watches.
Investigating this as a targeted home invasion. This was no random robbery.
I think I'm probably still in a state of shock.
Sleep, however, initially, when all of a sudden he felt someone nudging him.
Being in this business, I've heard this story a million times. It was just the first time I've ever really lived it.
Eventually, one of his clients' watches that he had sold turned up in a jewelry store, and Anthony, who had pocketed the purchase price of the watch without telling the client, had to make up a story that it was stolen and went to the jewelry store to confront them about buying stolen merchandise. The cops were eventually called, which led to a confrontation, which is all recorded on body cam footage.
Okay, so this is my original invoice when I bought this watch from a dealer in LA. I can't tell you how many pictures and videos of me wearing this watch. I was here for a Grant Cardone conference.
Grant Cardone conference.
This was taken off my wrist. I posted it on social media and in my dealer groups the very next day. I put a $100,000 reward out for it.
As Anthony's empire of lies collapsed around him, he began to make more mistakes and eventually got caught on a recorded phone call admitting to one of his clients that he was stealing from them, and now owed millions of dollars for watches he had sold and pocketed the money.
You know what I'm going to commit to right now is I'm just going to fucking tell everybody straight up. Like, I'm $5 million in debt. I've been a complete fucking degenerate, and I was like focused. I got a little bit of taste of success in the stars, and I thought that would never end.
When many of these online gurus get exposed as con men, those who used to follow them turn on them, and Anthony's own subreddit became a place to expose the many lies of the Timepiece Gentleman. Eventually, it came to light how Anthony, a former convicted felon, was able to start his luxury watch business to begin with, when his former career as a happy ending massage therapist under the alias of Travis Baker was exposed on his own subreddit. At this point, it was clear the gig was up, and Anthony's only play was to come clean, admit to everything he had done wrong in an apology YouTube video, and tell everyone he was going to work hard and make up the $5 million he owed to pay back all his clients.
I've made a lot of bad decisions. I made a lot of dumb mistakes. I even lied in that message about a robbery, hoping to cover it up even more while I try to fix it. And it's gotten to where just living this fake lifestyle, this look at me, I'm smart, I'm successful, keeping up the appearances, it's eating me alive. I drink every night just to be able to go to sleep.
Anthony started a new YouTube series called The Road to Redemption, when he showed himself slowly paying down his debts, but the sympathy play didn't work, and after only 5 episodes, he posted his farewell video on YouTube and again apologized for all the wrongs he did.
It's just time I get out of this industry and move on to the next. So, I've caused a lot of negative, I brought a lot of negative, unwanted attention to this industry, and for those that are actually involved in it, I apologize, guys. For those of you that I still owe money, I'm still not running from that. I still plan on paying that debt.
After that last video in August of 2023, Anthony disappeared, and some people assumed he may have self-deleted, But it turns out he was just homeless, and a reporter for Business Insider found him living out of a storage locker behind a Gold's Gym in Venice, California. The FBI eventually gathered enough evidence to arrest him and took him into custody in November of 2023 and charged him with multiple counts of wire and mail fraud. Anthony was facing over 20 years behind bars and initially pleaded not guilty, but after it became clear that he couldn't win the case, especially with his own YouTube video admitting to everything he did, he decided to plead guilty in January of 2025 to one charge of wire fraud and mail fraud. For pleading guilty to these crimes, Anthony will now face 70 months in federal prison and be forced to pay back the $5 million he owes to his victims as well. After living the last few months of freedom out of a storage locker, I doubt Anthony has the money to pay back his victims, so I don't think they will ever get their money back at this point. The story of social media luxury lifestyle lies is very reminiscent of another online guru I covered a few months ago, Wires Only, who is currently in trouble for a similar story, but with luxury cars instead of watches, and I do wonder if there will be a similar outcome in that case as well. Moral of the story is don't believe everything you see online, because most of it is just a bunch of lies.